All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of the Sports Plus podcast. Another full house in here like we had last week. Let's hope the conversation is just as good. Frank, you got some big shoes to fill. Mike was rearing to go last week.
Really?
He was getting into it. It took some prodding, but we got him.
Well, when the big fella's right, there's none better.
We got Frank.
Once the red light goes on, he's ready to roll.
We got Frank in here with Ahmad and Andy Moeller. Let's get right into baseball because it's pretty awful outside today. We're recording this on Wednesday. I'm ready for some sunshine and some baseball weather. The Cardinals are playing games this month. That is a great thing to say. I'm excited for baseball season. Frank's heading down to spring training here at the end of this week for the station. So it's right around the corner, but what's not so much fun to say is that the Cardinals' biggest news of the offseason was subtracting Jose Martinez for a prospect and signing a lefty from Korea.
You got a problem with KK?
I like KK. Well, but it's a little disheartening when you see yesterday the Dodgers are getting better, adding Mookie Betts and David Price. Go ahead, Ahmad.
What for me, when I saw that news come up, I just slapped my forehead and was like, oh, here we go. Like, another long season for the Cardinals. There's no hope. But then I'm like, all right, well, they can always compete, but how did that make you feel when you saw that trade?
I feel the same way I felt this whole offseason. They haven't got any better.
Is it a lock for the Dodgers to go to the National League Championship Series and win?
No, I don't think it's a lock, but I mean they're easily the best.
Kershaw in the postseason, so that's a good sign for the
but
opposition.
no one's going to be stealing signs on the AL side.
I mean, they're clearly the best team. I don't think the Braves are that far below the Dodgers.
Especially if they could be a lot.
Especially if Ozuna shows up and does what we know he could do.
He could replace Josh Donaldson's numbers for sure. So.
Uh-oh.
But it is kind of sad when you think about it. When the Dodgers, who already were loaded, added the guy with the highest wins above replacement, not named Mike Trout since 2014, and the Cardinals had a guy named KK.
Just looking at the deal, it seems like something, if the Cardinals were willing to absorb that money, they could have done this same deal. The Dodgers gave up their best outfield prospect, which the Cardinals could have done, didn't want to do, and a veteran pitcher to another team. The Cardinals could have made this deal, but I think it was all about the money, and Bill DeWitt was pretty darn certain that they weren't adding any money this year.
Well, he pretty much stated that they're right at the edge of where they want to spend as it is now, and so in order to take on another bat, well, then you've got to figure out how to subtract an equal amount of payroll. That doesn't sound like a Mookie Betts trade.
Yeah, there's three numbers that Bill DeWitt likes to give. $170 million, as in the payroll, 12th in terms of revenue, and then 7th was their ranking in that payroll. So those three. And look, I'll say this. He's the best owner we've ever had, and you can't second guess, and you can't look at his numbers and say, wow, he hasn't been very good. But right now, Cardinal fans are frustrated.
Time is ticking. It's been since 2011.
Listen, the good thing is the rest of the Central seems to be, except for the Reds, seems to be stuck as well and hasn't really done anything. The Cubs are going backwards. The Pirates are a mess. The Brewers haven't really done anything. So I think that's the big glimmer of hope for Cardinal fans right now. At least that's how I'm trying to look at it.
Can the Reds, who've been bad for so long, make that leap over the big three?
There's 16 games they have to make up if you're just looking at last year. So that's a big chunk, but they're definitely better.
And they had good pitching. That's what helped them last year. But in that tiny ballpark, can you expect them to have good pitching consistently again for another year?
And then the way they pick it up. I mean, believe me, the two bats they brought in are really good, but boy, they're not exactly Gold Glovers.
Definitely not. Okay, so we kind of beat the dead horse on the Cardinals outfield on how that might shape up, and we're going to be beating that dead horse all spring training until we actually see what's going to happen. But today, let's talk about the rotation because I think that's kind of flying under the radar a bit. What's everybody's biggest question? Because the top five, I don't think are necessarily set yet because KK says he wants to start. And Carlos says he wants to start. And Alex Reyes is a wild card like he's been for the last 6 years. What's everybody's biggest question going in when you talk about the Cardinals rotation?
Go ahead, Andy. You start.
I think there are a lot of questions. You've got, I don't want to say an embarrassment of riches necessarily, but you've only got 5 spots and you got a lot of guys are going to have to prove that they belong in that rotation by the end of the spring.
But if Carlos is right, and he's having apparently the best offseason in terms of dedication and hard work he's ever had.
It's good.
And if you got 180 to 200 innings out of that arm, that would be unbelievable. And then you have the two kids, and Flaherty may be the best right arm in all of baseball. And Miles Michaelis is going to have a comeback year, and I believe Wainwright will be okay. That's a good-looking 5. Carlos is the key. If he's right, that's a great 5.
I mean, I take away whoever misses out is just going to go into that bullpen that's already pretty good. So I think that could be another strong point for the Cardinals. What do you think about over there, Mod?
Same thing Frank alluded to and Andy. I mean, also what I think it comes down to is who can stay healthy. I mean, we can say who's going to be in the starting 5, the rotation when opening day is, but who's going to be in that rotation come the middle of July or, late August? Who's going to be healthy? And I think, keeping those guys fresh in the bullpen, whoever doesn't get the nod to start, it's going to be very important as well.
Frank, you talked about Flaherty. What's fair to expect from him this year? Because, I mean, I think we're going to put too much pressure on this kid to follow up what he did in the second half.
Well, I think it's a good question. I remember when Dwight Gooden went 24-4 as like a 21-year-old, and Bob Gibson said, he's not going to get better. And everybody said, wait a minute, he's 21. Everybody gets better. And he didn't get better. Jack Flaherty can't get better than last year's second half, but the drop is not going to be significant. Jack Flaherty dropping a little bit, with a full season of consistency is still 17 wins with a sub-3 ERA and 200 strikeouts.
I mean, I think we saw, a little bit last year. We expected a lot out of Jack Flaherty after what he did down the stretch 2 years ago. And he kind of got hit with that, I wouldn't say rust, but just the realization of, hey, I'm in the major leagues and I'm going to be pitching a full season. So I think his expectations are even higher for this season. And you saw he wasn't really happy with the Cy Young voting and all
He's
that.
got the right mindset. Yeah. He's got that bulldog mentality. I'm not worried about him at all.
Probably maybe Frank or Andy can allude to this, but maybe the closest to Chris Carpenter as far as mentality on the mound?
Since Chris.
Since then, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, Wainwright's in that ballpark, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But
so, all 3 of them. That's why Cardinal baseball has such great tradition that Carpenter mentored Wainwright, Wainwright mentors Flaherty. I mean, that's 3 6'4", 6'5" right-handers that you'd love.
Well, so right now, Flaherty, Michaelis, Hudson, Wainwright, Martinez.
Yeah.
And you think that's what it is?
Maybe Alex Reyes.
Well, I mean, that would be shocking. It would be great to see it, and I love that kid. I hope he gets a break. But if Martinez is right, he's not only in your rotation, he may end up being your 1 or 2 starter.
But then imagine this. Reyes, if healthy, coming out the bullpen.
That could be a weapon.
With Jordan Hicks back there
as well.
Gosh.
Oh, my. Miller Hicks.
You just brought up a name. I'm really curious to see how he does. At what point is he throwing?
Yeah.
And if he is, at what point is he going to be able to be plugged back in?
And they say
that's a jolt.
And you say they throw harder coming back from Tommy John surgery. He's already hitting 101, 102. That's scary.
When are you talking about Hicks?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Hicks said
he joked around 106.
The kids on Twitter.
But he's not going to be back, and they're not going to rush him until July. So you better hope that Ryan Helsley can be the closer, especially if Carlos is in the starting rotation.
Last Cardinals thing here, because it's the last time we'll talk before spring training actually starts. What's just everybody excited for the most about Cardinals spring training? Mine is seeing Dylan Carlson get more, hopefully, an actual shot. That's what I'm most excited for, because I think he's the real deal. When Mozeliak compares him to Pujols and Oscar Taveras as the 3 best prospects he's ever come across, that gets me excited. So I hope he gets a fair shake to win a spot.
I just want to see him have the kind of spring that would make them have to not only question whether to put him on the roster, but where we dare them not to put him on the roster.
Yeah. Well, he's the most fascinating guy to watch, but I think the key to spring training is Matt Carpenter. And if Matt Carpenter is right, and I'm saying 25 home runs, 80 RBIs, if he gets to that, well, that solves a whole lot of problems in your lineup, because right now you don't have either a 3 or a 4 hitter, depending on where you hit Goldschmidt.
And if he gets the strikeout numbers down.
Yeah.
I want to see who takes the bull by the horns in the outfield. I mean, there's a lot of questions surrounding our outfield. You alluded to Dylan Carlson, but I want to see what Tyler O'Neill does and what Harrison Bader does and Dexter Fowler. Like, these are guys who are expected to, contribute day in and day out. And last year they struggled. They were inconsistent. So I want to see what a summer off did. Well, offseason did for them. You see if they come back motivated and ready to go.
All right.
You're talking about the 29 homers and 89 RBIs, I believe it was, of Ozuna.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to make up for that.
You talk about the Reds having to make up 16 games. Cardinals are going to somehow have to figure out how to add those numbers into what they have now.
So as Frank's jetting out of town on Sunday, we will be preparing for the kickoff of the XFL and the Battlehawks. Now that whole Super Bowl thing's over, we can focus
in the sports.
We can focus on what really matters.
We got some football back.
The Battlehawks kickoff Sunday in Dallas. Just real quick, we kind of talked about that. We talked about the rule changes on here a little while back, and there's really not that much to talk about until the games are actually played and we see what the product looks like. But it's just winding down. Ahmad, you've been out there a couple days. What are you excited to watch? What's the most interesting thing you're looking to see?
How many points they can score and what these guys can really do when the lights shine bright. I mean, we've all seen them play in college football and some play in the NFL, but what are you going to do now that the spotlight's on you? You're on ESPN, you're on national television, all this hype about how successful the XFL is going to be. I want to see how the offense does because this game is tailored for offensive players and a lot of scoring, so I want to see that. And we didn't really get to see that at practice. They kick us out of individual practice, so you don't know what type of plays they're going to run. All you see is quarterback hands off and handing the ball off and fade route. So I don't know what to expect because we haven't seen anything. But if there's one thing that we want to see, that's a lot of points being scored.
I'm just excited for the fans. That's what I'm excited because St. Louis wants football. And, I mean, you can tell just by their followers on social media just how vocal the fans have been. I've said this from the start. The XFL will be more successful here than it is anywhere by a long shot because these fans want it.
Well, it's like a two-part thing for our fans. It's one, everybody likes to see football, and it's two is we want to prove to everybody that we are a really good football town. You know, Andy's familiar with the line, and Frank DeFord, the great Hall of Fame writer, said it. There's no such thing as a bad NFL town. There's only bad NFL owners. And, of course, we won the lottery in hell with our owners.
0 for 2.
Yep.
0 for 2. All right, let's move on a little bit. The Chiefs did win the Super Bowl on Sunday in the NFL, but I think it was Saturday that everybody in here probably liked a little better when we heard Isaac Bruce was going to the Hall of Fame. Just what was everybody's, especially Andy, you and Frank, you guys have been here, covered Bruce. What was your reaction when you finally saw him go in?
It's about time. Getting to watch him on Sundays routinely for year after year, just graceful and elegant and dynamic and destructive all at the same time, and just the greatest human being that St. Louis football, I think, and tied for first, let's put it that way, that there has been. Couldn't have happened to a better guy.
He had two things kind of working against him, that in a position filled with divas, he didn't have a big personality, and he played in a Midwest, the 21st market, but everything else worked for him. He got to play for Mike Martz. He got to catch balls from Kurt Warner. He got to have Torrey Holtby on the other side, which limited the double coverage. Yeah, I can't think of a better story in 2020 than Isaac.
And the best thing is that he hasn't forgotten about St. Louis. I mean, he loves this place. He'll say it anytime he gets the chance. He said it in his very first tweet after he got the news, which the Rams account took 17 hours or so to acknowledge because he said St. Louis. And I'm sure he's got something special planned for his speech. Let's just hope the NFL doesn't edit it out like they did with Orlando Pace's induction speech.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite wide receivers I grew up watching. That team, I first started watching football in 1999, 2000, and watching him was a thing of art and thing of beauty. I mean, the way he ran his routes, the way he caught the ball and can get under big hits and stuff like that, it was just magical watching him every Sunday.
So he's going to be the fourth guy on that Super Bowl team to go in.
Yeah.
We think Torrey's going to get there eventually. London Fletcher, I think, has got a good chance somewhere down the road.
Sure.
He's got limited Pro Bowls. He's got only 4 Pro Bowls on his resume, but he's got 2,000 tackles. I don't know if you could ever say he was the best middle linebacker in the game, but he was always in the top 5. And the longevity thing, it'll take a while, but he's got a shot.
Well, we think they're going to get 5 at Torrey at the least. What does that say about, we were kind of having this discussion in the sports office, what does that say about this Greatest Show on Turf's team just in the place of all the teams that have ever played in the NFL?
Well, Frank, we were all trying to count them down, and
only the Packers had 6.
Right, and so what did they say about Earl Campbell? He may not be in a class by himself, but it doesn't take long to call the roll. I think that pretty much says it about this team. I mean, there's no question about it that this was the dynamic offense, certainly of a generation.
Yeah, we were spoiled with that offense compared to the next 10 years.
It'll be cool to see all those guys in their gold jackets someday for sure. All right, last thing this week. Let's talk about some college hoops teams that we cover that are going pretty well.
Corey, you don't even have your Mizzou Tigers
I don't
on here.
think we can talk about Mizzou here. I don't think they quite qualify. Let's go Illinois first. They've got a huge stretch going for them right now. They lost to ranked Iowa, close game. It's only going to get tougher. Maryland, Michigan State, Rutgers, Penn State. That's a gauntlet in the Big Ten, which is just, I think I saw projected, was it 10 or 12? They're going to get like a crazy amount of teams in the tournament. They're ranked 20th right now, but it's going to be tough. They're at the top of the Big Ten, but I don't know how long they're going to stay there.
Look, if you can win some games in this stretch, it lets you know that you're ready for March. It's not about winning every single game, but it's just showing you where you are at this point. And you're not going to win every game versus these top 25 teams, let's just be honest. But if they can get through this gauntlet with 2 or 3 wins, it lets them know what they need to clean up before March, and I think they'll be competitive as anybody in the tournament.
I really think they're a Sweet 16 team. They have a big 3 with Kofi, Io, and Trent Frazier. The coach is a Bob Huggins apostle, and they just play their guts out. They got a 6-man in Griffin. There's just no flaw in that team. They've already have 3 big wins on the road in the Big Ten. I really like Illinois.
You think this is the best Illinois team since that final? Yeah.
2005?
Yeah, it could be.
Should be fun. I think they were projected as a 6 or 7 seed.
Mike DeCourcy, who's really good, had him at a 4 this
Oh,
weekend.
really?
Yeah. So
Well,
I know the Missouri guy wouldn't give Illinois the benefit of the doubt.
I looked it up
Who
before.
lives in Illinois?
I looked up bracketology on ESPN right before we came in here, and it was a 7. So I was giving them benefit of the doubt.
Well, I think it's going to how they play in the Big Ten tournament is going to have a big bearing on where they wind up as a seed.
And how about him, Underwood, on the sidelines? I don't know who said it, but it's like he gets it. It's like he's in a barroom fight. You know, he's always red. He's disheveled. He's yelling. He's just something else.
What was the term I heard somebody described as once? He looks like a clenched fist.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And you know what? We had him on the radio about a week ago, and he talked about his relationship with the players, and he sounded like a father talking about his sons. I mean, you know, that's a rare thing that Frank Martin and Huggins do. They get on him. You think these players must hate him, but they love him. They love playing for this guy.
As you said last week, their main objective moving forward, don't get fat. Stay lean. Ignore the people like us in the media. Don't listen to the noise. Just lock in.
So let's get on to SLU here. We're recording this on Wednesday. They play in Duquesne tonight. They won 3 in a row in the A-10 at the time of us recording this. 17-5 overall, 6-3 in the conference. I mean, I think the really only bad loss is to Davidson. They've been in there with some really good competition. A-10 projected 3 teams right now. Is it fair to say SLU has to win out to get an at-large?
I don't know if I'd say that. I think there are going to be 3 teams. Let's say they finish in the top 3, and they're tied for 3rd right now, and then they got to the championship game, and you're sitting there with 23, 24 wins. Yeah, you know, look, it's not going to be easy because their strength of schedule is not great, but they got a shot of getting in without winning the tournament.
They pretty much have to win that Dayton game on the road then,
They have
right?
to. They
have to win tonight, too.
Duquesne, yeah. Duquesne.
I mean, you get a win versus a top 10 ranked team on the road.
Yeah.
That
That's why
does a lot.
that loss was just so painful.
It was.
I mean,
and you were there. You recorded it.
What was it? What did
It's
you
like
say in your tweet? It was at this moment I died or something.
Yeah, yeah. It felt like a funeral.
It was really bad watching in the sports office with Hannah, Andy, Corey, and myself. It was.
Oh,
brutal.
that Goodwin shot. Everybody in the sports office jumped up, and then
I mean,
Can you imagine that the 3-pointer that beat him? If that just rims out, how that just changes the trajectory of the season. That shot going in could keep them out of the NCAA tournament.
I mean, Frank, but if it goes further than that, free throws and all of their losses besides the
that's become
Davidson
like a
loss,
given now.
man, it's like if they could just make 6 more free throws.
That's something Mizzou does well.
That's why at the end of the game,
If they could win though.
at the end of the game, Javante Perkins should have the ball, and nobody else should touch it.
Hey,
Because everybody else can make a free throw.
And when he scored 33 this past weekend, I asked him, I said, hey, in a moment like that, I said, you have the green light. I was like, are you thinking about getting your team involved or you're firing away? He was like, oh, no, I'm shooting the ball. He's like, I love getting my teammates involved. He's like, but when I'm hot, I'm rolling.
Southwestern Illinois College transfer coming up big. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sports Plus podcast. Be sure to download, subscribe, and rate and review us wherever you get your podcast.